Knowledge is having the right answer. Intelligence is asking the right question. Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to the session on Art and Science of Meaningful Questions by Mrs. Pradnya Gokhale. Mrs. Gokhale is an electronics engineer and holds a master's degree in education. She's a master trainer with CBSE. She has conducted more than 200 workshops in schools across India on activity-based teaching and learning in mathematics and science, team building, and life skills. Mrs. Pradnya Gokhale is also a British Council School Ambassador. She has conducted several British Council core skills trainings for the Maharashtra state government. I now request Mrs. Gokhale to take the session forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Nidhi, for that wonderful introduction. And I'm sure I'm honored to be a part of so many educators who are masters in themselves. Allow me to share the screen and give me a minute. Okay. So the topic today would be art and science of meaningful questions. So if I'm going to ask you that question, that what is the session about, isn't that a meaningful question in itself? Today what are we going to do for that 1 hour? We are going to discuss why ask questions, qualities of a good question, examples of good questions, identify errors in a question paper. We'll also touch upon Bloom's taxonomy. We'll see open and closed-ended questions. And then to the last, we'll also see how do I connect all this learning to my classrooms. So a very good evening to everybody over here. And so we begin the session, and I would like for you to ponder on something. So what's that? Now we do ask a lot of questions in the class, okay? So imagine your day online or offline, and say you have 4 to 5 lectures a day, and we ask numerous questions to our children. So it could be ranging from, so Nidhi, have you done your homework? I'm just giving some names. So Nidhi, have you done your homework? Or today, how is the weather in your place? So if you're doing an online session, from actually asking conceptual questions. So I want you to think of, from those questions to the end of the day, how many questions do you generally ask? And count them and give your responses in the chat box, please. So I would love to hear from everybody. I would love to hear from friends who are also listening or also being a part of the presentation, not only on Zoom. So I would love to hear from you that will it be say 2 questions, will it be 20 questions, will it be 40 questions, or will it be 5 questions? I would love to see your responses in the chat box.
So waiting for the answers, both on Zoom. So Ms. Vadva says 20 to 30 questions. And 10 to 12 is an answer from Facebook. Ms. Vinaya says 10 to 12 questions.
Okay, great.
Looking for more answers.
Exactly. So we'll have a total interactive session. So be on board and keep giving your responses so that we can build on responses. We'd love to hear from you.
So Ms. Ushada says 15 to 20 questions as an approximate.
Okay.
Ms. Vidyanarayan says 50 to 60 questions. Ms. Preeti Maheshwari says 12 to 15. 5 questions from Hiteshji. Then Ms. Jyoti says 15 to 20 questions. So quite a few answers.
Lovely. Yes.
From both the platforms.
Yeah, so I think Sudha has also given Usha. Okay. So thank you so much for your responses. And now you'll be surprised to see actually as to how many questions. So all of you have ranged your, questions, say from 10 to say 30 questions or 20 questions. So did you know that approximately 15% of our classroom time is devoted to around 350 questions asked per day? That is throughout your 5-6 lectures. And out of those 350, very few are those planned questions. So I want to bring to your notice that what are those which are planned question. Otherwise, all those are very low level or mundane questions which are not planned. Immediately when we are teaching, we just think, let us ask. Probably they may be superficial enough so as not to get any outcomes of that. And so therefore it is statistically proved also, and there is a very good paper, research paper on putting assessments for learning into practice. If you get the time, please have a look at the research paper. It says that 10% of the questions actually require any thinking from the learners. So those are those 10%. So 10% would roughly be 35. So on an average, your class, if you had 5, you have those 7 questions where you have planned it well, and they are meaningful. They make the child think. So there is some takeaway for this, right? And if that is so, if the questions are asked, what is the purpose of asking these 350 or asking now when we are talking about good questions over very planned questions? If you're saying 35 questions, why were they asked and what is the purpose of questioning? So the first purpose that I can think of is to check prior knowledge and understanding. Say you are taking a class on, say it's a grade 6 and you're taking area and perimeter. And to start with, you want to see whether the children remember those 2D shapes and whether they remember the difference between square and rectangle. So sometimes you ask questions, you plan questions in advance. Sometimes the purpose of questioning could be to stimulate recall. So when you are teaching area, probably you are trying to make them recall the concept of, say, perimeter you have taught, or you are trying to ask them that whether a square. So immediately you are wanting them, or what is the difference, what is the units of conversion. So that is what is sometimes also we keep students actively involved all the time. So, and especially it matters when we are doing an online teaching now per se. So you would feel to ask questions when all of a sudden you feel that, yeah, the students are solving, but they're not understanding probably. So you just throw up a question. So as to get student-centered learning in your class. And then we ask questions to focus pupils' thinking on concepts and issues, key concepts. So we want to know when we ask a question on the key concept, so when you ask a question, what is the difference between area and perimeter? I'm just taking one concept. So here, say when you are asking a question on key concepts, what would be the area of a square, or what is the difference between the area of a square and area of rectangle? How do you take out? So therefore you ask, and the last, you ask for pupils to extend from concrete to analytical skills. So that is, you do not want them to have superficial understanding. So you want them to, so yes, so Nidhi has written, yes, sometimes to see their engagement. Yes, very true. So Gunjan ma'am has written, sometimes to see whether they are engaged in what you are teaching. That's so important. And when I was discussing this with you right now, I have seen a class, observed a class where through probing questions only, a grade 2 science teacher has brought the children to start discussing about a sensor on the door. So there was this lesson on house and doors. So through probing questions, she could arrive at that. So that's the power of questioning. So if we know that there are definite purposes, let's go on to see what are the characteristics of a good question. Then if we know that, yeah, questioning is important. So let us see what makes the question good. So start thinking, and if you have something, please write down. And you could have it in, say, 1 word or 2 word answers. And we are going to take your responses on the Mentimeter. So I will be putting, so just give me a minute and I will share. So what you have to do is you have to log in to mentimeter.com. I have it. If you are able to see my screen.
Yes, ma'am. We can see your screen.
Sir, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So if you're able to see, yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So to reiterate, all the teachers, both on Facebook as well as on Zoom, please, log into www.mentimeter.com. Type that, and then you can use the code 9178061 to record your answers.
Yes. The code is also flashed on the screen, menti.com. Please put in your responses.
I'm sorry, it is www.menti.com. And the code is 9178061.
Shrikant, could you type it in the chat also, or this is enough?
This is fine, ma'am.
Okay.
This is fine.
Okay,
However,
it will be
yes, so we are getting the responses, yes. We've got
we would love to hear from all of you. Okay, so I got some more. Probing for understanding, type of questions, how and why, level of questions, target audience. Very well said. Open-ended questions.
Excuse me, ma'am. Some teachers are asking for the code. That code has been also typed in the Facebook chat. However, you can see the code right up in the screen where you see the website, and right next to it is use the code 9178061. And we request all the teachers to participate.
You started getting responses. We'll wait for a minute more and 2, right, Shrikant sir?
Yes, ma'am, sure. Because we are waiting for some more teachers from Facebook to participate. So there will be a few seconds of lag. So I think they are joining us.
So for critical thinking, wow. Specific, yes.
So shall we discuss, ma'am, these things?
Yes, yes, I think, yes. So we've got quite many responses and still people are putting in their responses. So thought-provoking seems to be the, yes, very rightly said, that if a question it doesn't make you think for a minute, then it is not challenging. So that's very rightly said. And so I'll framed in an easy way, yes, reasoning questions, critical thinking, level of questions, target audience is very important. The saying application based, Then real life, I read somewhere it was related to daily life.
Yes, real life situation. We have it.
Yeah, real life situation.
Yes. And also, ma'am, just to add, I think a few teachers who are not able to access Mentimeter have given us answers on Facebook. With your permission, shall I read them?
Yeah, please do that.
Yes. So there are these answers that we've got. One is from Vaishali ma'am. She's written brainstorming.
Okay.
The next one is to get out of the box answer.
Wow. Yes.
And a third one is HOTS, higher order thinking skills.
Okay.
And
so,
we have one answer here on Zoom too. It's for critical thinking.
Yes. So let's consolidate our learning, and let's see what is so a good question. So I have just put in some thoughts here. So it should be short. Longer questions are, you lose the continuity. Of course, not all, I would say over here. Thought-provoking is what you all had picked up, very rightly said. Unambiguous. So it should be correct and true to the meaning. So there should be, it should not be, like some questions are not clear even when you read it. So it shouldn't be like that. They should be relevant. So somebody had written to the target audience, very rightly said, relevant to that particular grade, related to the objective. So it's a good practice whenever we form questions to write the learning objectives that you want to test, clearly stated, straightforward and common vocabulary. If I'm putting it under one bracket, it should be very simple language, and it shouldn't be using, big jargon. So which during when the students are asked, they don't even understand the meaning. Sometimes they ask you, ma'am, iska matlab kya hai? So we should take care of all such things and properly directed. So whatever are the related learning objectives, they should be properly directed and they should be comprehensive. So if that is so, we could keep this, you could take a snapshot of it. So when we are forming questions, probably it will always be there in our mind, keeping all these parameters. So let's see some questions. And we have the first question with you here. So I'm just reading it out. A zoo attendant weighing 72 kgs wants to measure the weight of the baby giraffe. He carries the baby giraffe and stands on the weighing scale. The reading on the scale is 150. What is the weight of baby giraffe? And then you have A, B, C, D. These are objective types. Nowadays, most schools, they give a lot of objective type questions because it is easier to assess online. What thought comes to your mind when you look at the question? You can unmute yourself and talk, or you can give your response in the chat box. You could raise up your hand and probably we could ask you that, looking at the question, what was the first thought that came to your mind? Anybody could tell me about it. So could I get some,
yes,
does somebody want to?
Yes, yeah. I'm looking for any teacher who'd like to be unmuted. You can show up your hand, and in case you'd like to answer or you'd like to share your thoughts, you can always do so. So
we
are getting answers from Facebook.
Okay.
Answer to this question. So Ms. W says 78. However, we are waiting for. So Sheetal ma'am says confusing and too lengthy, to your question as to what their opinion is.
Okay.
Yes. Ma'am says analyzing this type of question which allows students to analyze.
So Urvashi ma'am, could you, when you looked at the question, what was the first thought that came to your mind? That is analyzing?
Okay, Urvashi ma'am, would you like to speak or you'd like to answer it using the chat?
Unmute and answer.
Yeah, so.
Could we unmute and answer maybe?
Fine, okay. I'm unmuting Urvashi ma'am. Just thought I'd take a permission before that.
Yes.
Ma'am, please unmute and you can speak. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
going through this question, I had to think, like, first thing came that I have to analyze how my weight, I know it. After carrying this, holding this giraffe, how will I measure? So I need to
Okay.
deduct. So I need to analyze that.
Okay, correct. So it is definitely not immediately not very simple as just putting it. And very rightly said. And one more thing, what it is this question, if I put it like this, it is definitely, it will interest the children, isn't it? By looking at that giraffe, it would be very interesting and stimulating to see that giraffe, the boys holding. And if something interests the children, they are definitely wanting to read what is asked for. So that is a very important when we talk about good questioning. So this I just wanted to highlight. Another maths question that we have is, I've just taken 2 maths, 2 science, and 1 English and this. So now this is a question, which of these is a negative integer? Okay, so there is A, B, C, D, and you have to understand which of this. So give it one, say 30 seconds thought. And what do you say about this question? You could put it in the chat box or speak.
Yeah, while we wait for that, I'll just read out some responses for the previous question, which
Right.
we've got on Facebook and also on Zoom. Neha ma'am has said the question is a computation-based question. And Mahek ma'am on Facebook says this question is a type of question that is intended to provoke students to think.
Okay.
So these are 2 answers that we
Correct.
got about the first. And now with respect to the present one, the answers here is Sushma ma'am says the answer is D. Ms. Vadva says it's conceptual. Ms. Nandita says answer is A. Neha ma'am says it is a calculative type of question.
Okay.
And on Facebook, the first answer we get is A from Vinaya ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, you know, talking about the earlier one also, somebody said it is long, but looking at that's what I said, looking at the image, probably, you know, they won't get bogged down even by reading if it's a long. They would think it is a part of the story of the giraffe. Now, talking about this question, if you look at this very closely and if you analyze each one, say -3 if raised to -6, that will be, so 1 by -3 raised to 6. So this will be positive. All the answers, if you look at A, B, C, D, all the answers will come as a positive integer. So which is not, and what was the question? Which of these is negative question? So no option is correct. If you analyze A, if you analyze B, if you analyze C, all of them will give you a positive integer sign, because, and therefore questions should never be unambiguous, as we said. So please calculate, I mean, when we give the options, so see that there is it is a correct, the question is correct, and even the options are correct. So that again, we should remember for making good questions. Going forward, we have the next question, which talks about science. And this is, Peter arranged 2 circuits below, P, Q, R, S, are blocks of 4 different materials. So if you're seeing, there are 2 circuits that Peter arranged, and you have to, the child is asked, based on the above information, which of the 4 materials is an insulator? So whether it is P, whether it is Q or R and S. So what do you think, looking at the question? We are not looking at the answer as of now. We are looking at what is that thing in the question which makes it good, or it is. So what is that characteristic of good question which, okay.
So Neha ma'am is answered. She says it is a conceptual question.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm just
yes. So answering Sudha ma'am's earlier question, she had written answer A is negative. If you look at -3, let's go back to it later. -3 raised to -6. That would mean 1 by -3 raised to 6. And anything raised to an even number will always be a positive number. So that is what the answer was. This, of course, it is conceptual as rightly told. And in fact, if you look at the circuit, those who have answered maybe Q or R, the correct answer is of course P. But those
yes,
who have
Anita ma'am has answered P.
Ah, okay, great. So moving forward, so each of these distractors should be so designed as to capture the incorrect notions of the children. So this is again very important. One is of course correct, but the second, all the other 4 or all the other 3 should capture the misconceptions of children, like incorrect. Those who have gone in for Q, probably they have not looked at, they have not. So if you're looking at circuit 1 and circuit 2 and comparing, so they have just probably looked at only one circuit and they have decided that it is not. So looking at both, analyzing both the circuits and then giving an answer. Yeah, Sudha ma'am, you can. In fact, we'll just after 2 minutes. So it is very important that we have the distractors in the question, which will give you the wrong conceptions which children have about insulators and conductors. Sudha ma'am, you can unmute yourself and speak.
I will have to do that for Sudha ma'am. So
yeah.
Ma'am,
Okay.
1 second.
Can you unmute her, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Madam, if we, that was -3 to the power bracket -6. If we keep the minus sign separately, okay, and we just consider 3 to the power -6, then it will become a negative number. Can it be? If we keep the negative sign, if we will not consider, because all the 3 options there as -3 in the bracket, okay, fine, and the to the power is 6 or -6, whatever it is. For the first option, if we'll keep the negative sign separate, okay, fine, and you consider only 3 to the power -6. If we consider 3 to the power -6, it will be 1 by 3 to the power 6, and minus sign intact. So it can be negative number.
Okay. So in that case, with that explanation, you're very right, right? But in this case, when we are looking at -3, then in that case, there should have been a bracket over here, right? There should have been some bracket where you have like this. In
all
that case, this is correct.
There are brackets, okay? All the 3 other options are bracket, okay?
Correct.
So it will be that, okay, whenever it is the power is positive, even numbers, then it will become positive, okay?
Correct.
So first option, there is some confusion.
Yes, yes, exactly. Like you are keeping all the 3 in brackets, you're not keeping, so they wouldn't even know. Like some children would take that minus is outside and it is 3 raised to something like this. They would have taken this understanding, right? Yes. So, or some would say, like we said, -3, actually it was like this, then none of the options are correct. So it is be very, yes, Sudha, right? Sudha ma'am rightly told. Very rightly told. But
bracket
this
should be there. Bracket should be there. Okay, fine.
Correct.
Otherwise, we can take it as a negative.
Correct. Correct. So if there is no bracket, then people will take minus for that 3 there. And then there is, then all the 4 options are, none of them is negative in that case. Right? So there is an ambiguity in the question.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so talking about this, as we were talking, it is distractors that come into play, which is important. Let's go over to another science question, which talks about Rahul wants to find out whether it is true that the plants need water to grow. He takes 2 pots with identical plants. What should he do for the next 4 days? See, all 4 have a meaning. It's an experimental design for the question, and which makes the children think. And so such questions so if you look at water P more Q less, or water only P, and So here, pinpointedly, the objectivity of what the teacher asked, that you should be able to tell in the response. So yes, it's an application-based question. Yes. Are we getting any more responses for this? So we'll go ahead otherwise. So somebody said application-based.
Yes, ma'am. Then some people are saying analyze the circuit and relate with information given. So
Okay.
it's general answers. Then, yeah, application-based and reasoning for this one.
Right.
What makes a good question? So,
So if you take out science, science is always learning by design, and good question that is, this is a very good question that tests design of the experiment, why the experiment is. So question should test an important skill and should be related to the objective. The objective was whether plants need water to grow. So this particular design will satisfy the objectivity of the question. We'll go ahead and we have an English question which has come up, and it reads, he has a reputation of being dash. Can he be trusted to tell the truth? Which of these is opposite in meaning to the underlined word and will complete the sentence meaningfully? So one is the answer, and second is, why do you feel, what do you feel of this question, and why would we categorize under a good question?
Okay, so looking for answers.
Okay.
Okay, answer is C from Jayasudha ma'am.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, Ms. Vidya says C for answers on Facebook.
So,
okay, D, unreliable, is what Ms. Neena ma'am says.
So the correct answer, Shrikant, is actually D. If contextually you should see, normally, children will go for the opposite of trust.
Yes.
So that is a common understanding. So here you are bringing them to the reference to the context and relevant to what is asked for. So if you're looking at, he has reputation of being dash. So, and therefore, can he be trusted? So you are not looking, we had not put any trust on him earlier. It was not like that, but he has a reputation of being unreliable. And so the skills tested are synonyms and antonyms. And so such questions are not direct, where, children, even without reading to the context, write the answers.
So, now we are getting a lot of answers saying it is D, both on Zoom and on Facebook. And they agree with what you said.
Yes, right. Okay. So moving forward, we have the last question maybe. So this is a social science question which says, in Rampur village, there is a dispute regarding the sharing of water of the pond. So there is a context which is given. Some villages argue that water should be used for temple rituals, while the others are in favor of using it for irrigation. Which of the following methods should the panchayat use to resolve the issue in a democratic way? So here, whatever you want them to understand, it is put in caps. There is a context given. So what are your, what sort of question would you put it as? What is a characteristic of this question? Yeah, the answer, yes.
Answers are C, and I think Neha ma'am has written value-based, VB.
Okay, correct.
I'm waiting for answers from Facebook.
Okay.
Ma'am or...
Yes, Shrikant, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm just waiting for those answers. Okay, first answer on Facebook is C. C again.
Yes.
So most of them are writing C for this. There's an overwhelming supposition that C should be the answer.
Okay.
And the type of question relates to social awareness and ethics. It's based on ethics.
Right, right. So very rightly told, the answer is C. But here, if you look at the thing, the real life application is very much of importance. They make use of democracy. What is democracy with the help of a situation which is being there. So the idea being tested should be worth understanding and context should be realistic. They should be able to understand, oh, they should be able to visualize, oh, there is a village, there is water, and then there is a dispute. So then what should be done? Why should it be done that way? Is it the democratic way? So with giving a storyline, it becomes realistic. So your questions could be based, as we discuss, that.
Well, shall I present something else, ma'am?
Yes.
So we have Ms. Rupa, who on Facebook suggests that it could also be a D.
Sorry?
It could also be a D, the answer.
Okay. It should consult an expert from a nearby city. Is what she's saying D or B, you said?
D.
D as in Delhi, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here, the question is testing used to resolve the issue in a democratic way. So if it is democracy that you're looking at, if you're looking at the villagers, so the most democratic way would be, of course, later on they can, but if we look at the style of democracy, it would always be C as the answer. So if they're looking at D, probably they have not understood, so that the question is talking about democratic. So of course, an expert can definitely be consulted later on. What is the right way for expert opinion? Rightly said. So if we have understood certain characteristic of good questions as it should be thought-provoking, it's interesting, relevant, it should be related to the objectives, it should be realistic, the questions shouldn't be unambiguous. Let us do an exercise of identifying errors in the question. I'm going to put up some questions here, and you have to find out what is the error. Keep making a note, and we'll quickly discuss the errors over here. Okay.
Yes. So shall we read the questions or?
Yes. Would you read that?
Yes, ma'am. Sure. So identify the error. The first question is, how is solar energy used to light the street lights? This question is for class 7. Question 2, write everything you know about Taj Mahal. It is a question for class 6. Question 3, critically evaluate the Panchayat Raj policy, which is for class 8. Question 4, given below is a rectangular sheet. How many circular plates, as shown, may be cut from it if the radius of each circle is 3 centimeters? A question for class 5.
Yes.
Ma'am,
and just
before
Shrikant,
that,
I'll just like to add over here that the error, do not tell the error that, this circle is slightly smaller.
Shorter.
Yeah, shorter. So don't take that as an error. Assume that all are of the same size.
Okay, that's the caveat there. So I think we are getting answers from Facebook. So Ms. Reena ma'am says, Ms. Reena says, Q2 and Q5 are not the apt ones. Question 2, which is write everything you know about Taj Mahal. And question 4, I'm sorry, given below is a rectangular sheet. So these questions aren't apt according to her. Ms. Anuradha says, needs to give specific topic to explain like architecture or materials used for Taj Mahal. So she reckons the questions must be specific. Then Ms. Reena says, question 1 is not class appropriate. So how is solar energy used to light the street lights is not an appropriate question for class 7. Okay, so Mahak ma'am says how solar energy is useful for street lights. So I think she has to complete the question. So I'm just waiting for that.
Okay.
I think she reckons that is not a valid question if I read it right. Ms. Nidhi says Q2 is general. What is expected is not stated.
Correct.
Ms. Vinaya says one question is self-explanatory. I think she reckons first question is self-explanatory.
Okay. Who said that? Self-explanatory?
Ms. Vinaya on Facebook.
Okay. Okay, okay, okay. So I think most of you have got it right, actually. There is this answer, how is solar energy used to light the street lights? So one thing, it is already said that solar energy is used. So what else is the child going to write? And for grade 7, of course, they may not be able to know the science, a lot of in details about that. So definitely, as you said, the question, the answer is there in the question itself. Sometimes we tend to do that. Then some of you have written, write everything about, yes, it is not specific, it is not straightforward, it is not, so it is very vast. Some people have written for grade 6. I think Sushmita has written. So yes, correct. So rightly said, everything about, so they may say that, yes, I like Taj Mahal and I like Taj Mahal because of, so then you have to award marks. And then if you look at this critically evaluate, if we are going to critically evaluate, what are the points that you want them to know about Panchayat Raj policy that have not been stated? And given below the rectangle sheet, nobody, Shrikant, do we have any responses for the fourth one? I don't know.
No, ma'am. For the fourth one, the only opinion was that it was not apt question.
Okay. So if you look at the fourth question, the answer is there in the question itself. How many circular sheets? So if you look at this, there are 6. So even if the child doesn't know mathematics, they are going to get it correct. What ideally should have been done is the figure shouldn't have been given. That would be more challenging. Rightly said. Now look at another 2 last questions that we have. Here, if I'm looking at the picture, shows Aizil and his friends on a cycle race. Who is third in the race, right? So what do you think of these 2 questions? And which of these behaviors of Ravi can be considered as the violation of his fundamental duties towards the nation?
Yes. So again, looking for answers. I'll just read the questions to you. The question on the top is mentioned as a 6th question. The picture shows Aizil and his friends of a cycle race. Who is the third in the race? And the answers here, the choices here is Aizil, Stephen, Danny, and Ross. Okay, so I'm waiting for answers. However, there's one answer from Nidhi. Her answer is, how will the teacher evaluate if the question is not framed properly? Can be Danny, can be Gerard. Don't know the start point. So that's her answer.
Correct.
Looking for teachers to come up with their thoughts too. Okay. Okay. Charu ma'am says there are no starting and ending points, so perhaps the question is ambiguous.
Yes, correct. And Shrikant, somebody was asking about what do I mean by ambiguous. Ambiguous is not clear. Okay.
Yes.
So it is not clear what is asked for, or it is incorrect. So those would all be ambiguous questions. So if you look at this one, there is a lot of ambiguity. There is no start and there is no end. It's circular, rightly told. Right?
Confusing.
And what about this one? Which of these behaviors of Ravi can be considered as a violation from? So what's wrong?
So we've got one answer from Ms. Anuradha on Zoom. She says no answer is correct in question 2. And I'll just read out some answers that we are getting on Facebook. So on Facebook, Neeta ma'am says cycle race. In a cycle race, we do not know who is leading as how many rounds are there. That's her thought. Anita ma'am says clarity is not given about the right or left. Okay. Bina ma'am says direction should have been mentioned.
Right.
Rupa ma'am says for question 2, B should be the answer. Mahekji says question itself is inappropriate, but I don't know which question she is referring to. So
okay, correct. I think inappropriate, she must be talking about the second one.
Second
Both
one,
are
yes.
second one. Okay.
I guess, yes.
Yes. So as somebody has rightly pointed out, so if you're looking at the second one, the options which are there are not appropriate at all. It's sometimes, you know, when we give in our MCQs, we do give all of these or none of these. It's not very wise to use none of these or all of these, because sometimes we do not know what to keep in options, and that's the easiest option we keep. So that's one folly. Here, if you're looking at telling a joke about the game of hockey, so each of the distractors should give out the meaning of, say, fundamental duties or violation. And in this case, this question is doing none. So therefore, these are rightly said that these are errors, and we should consider this when we frame questions.
So there is an interesting observation, if I might bring to your notice, on Facebook by Ms Charu. She says answer depends on the age of Ravi. How old Ravi is.
Okay.
If he's a child, small kid, perhaps nothing of these would be violation.
Yes. So very rightly, I mean, this is a very interesting point. Even the level of questions, where it is asked, whom it is asked to, is important. So suppose if it is asked to grade 2, and if they are telling one of them fighting with children of other communities, you should take the age into consideration and then select the answer key. That's very right.
Yes.
So shall we move forward, Shrikant?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, we can.
So moving forward, let's take, so if we have found out, let's see how do we put it in Bloom's taxonomy. And all of us know a lot of Bloom's taxonomy. And if you look at this figure here, you will see that this is a tip of the iceberg. But what comes to your mind that there is a lot below the ocean. This looks small, but there is long. So even our questioning skills are, if they are surface learning, it is of no use to the child. So, and the lowest skills are peeking out of the surface, while your higher order thinking, you want them to dive inside and explore. And for that, you should equip them well. So your questioning should be based on higher order thinking questions. And if they are so, what could we categorize in higher order thinking questions and lower order thinking questions? We will not look at Bloom's taxonomy so much in details. I know we have done in our bachelor's of education, and we still use a lot in our lesson designs. So we have these action verbs which are there on Google everywhere. But each of this word, if you take a lesson and if you try to frame particularly from there, you will be able to realize how do you form an analysis. So it is most difficult to go from application to analysis and synthesis. It's very easy to frame questions in knowledge and comprehension base, but we want them to be critical thinkers. So we need to think of good questions for that. And then, so what I've done is I've brought out two major categories when we talk about higher order and remembering and understanding. So we'll take closed and open questions. So questioning, as you know, it's a lifeline of the lesson. So if that is so, there could be just, if you're categorizing them as closed-ended and open-ended questions, closed-ended question usually have only one correct answer. And open-ended questions have several answers that can be correct. So in a classroom, when you are asking, you can have a mix. I'm not saying have all open-ended questions, but you should have a blend of both closed and open-ended. Now, whenever I discuss this, there's a very good example that I think of. Of course, I have one more also. Like this is a grade 4 and a social science teacher goes into the classroom and says, what is the capital of, say, Maharashtra? And then, so the children, one child gets up and says Mumbai, and that's it. There is no thinking beyond that. But then same question, if she puts it as, why is Mumbai the capital of Maharashtra? It will make children think so much. And they'll start thinking, so grade 4 level, probably they'll say that, oh, it is the most happening place. Depending on the level of the children, they're going to answer this question. If you go higher, if you go to grade 8, grade 9, they'll start thinking that, yeah, it is a trade capital. Maybe it's near to the seashore, or, they'll have a lot of their own thinking and reasoning to this. And that is what we are looking at. And like there is one more question which is over here. Say closed question, what factors increase rate of transpiration? So if the children and even haven't thought of it and they have memorized this is more of remembering and understanding. So they are going to, if at all they're asked something, why humidity, they may not know it. So if there is a context which is given that it's a very humid place and whether the rate of transpiration will be more or less, I'm sure very few may answer that. And then the same open-ended question, if you put it at why do plants wilt? So so there are several reasons, isn't it? They may not necessarily that it's always a drought condition where there is less of water or water is scarce. It may be even flooding. So then also plants may wilt. So you're making the child think from different perspectives. And then such questions are very good in classrooms where you get a lot of responses. So so if we have understood what are closed questions probably and what are open questions generally have a lot of responses. So I have a task for all of you here. You design one open-ended and one closed-ended question based on what follows and specify the subject, grade, and objective of the question. Okay, so there is something going to follow and where you have to mention what subject are you going to do that for grade and the objective of the question. So here goes. You can take such pictures to your classrooms and ask children to form questions. Okay, so you form a question looking at the picture now. Okay. I'll give you, say, maybe 5 minutes.
Maybe a minute, I think should do.
A minute, yeah, I know.
Yes.
I think what we could do is, we could have, say, maybe one open and one as and when they come, you can put it in the response, or I will have, I'll share a whiteboard over here so that we can put in our responses there.
Sure.
So you can tell me as and when they write.
Okay, what is the speed limit?
Sorry?
What is the speed limit?
Okay. Is it a closed or open? That also we need to specify, okay?
Okay, sure. It's a closed-ended question.
It's a closed. Yeah?
It's a closed.
It's a closed.
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
The next question is closed. Who's the Prime Minister of India? Is it?
Who is the
PM of India?
This is what we have to do is looking at the picture. Shall I show you all the picture again?
Yes. So we must take a look at the picture and then accordingly we must frame our questions.
Yeah.
So if you could just switch to the picture while I describe it, you have a lot of flood there, and then there is a signboard stating speed limit 40. And this looks like a hamlet in the background with 2 trees and some shelter houses, I think, or they are just homes. Yes. So that's the picture. And it's rather a dry day in the sky. It's not wet. So yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So there is one closed question, closed-ended question, which says what best describes the picture.
Okay.
Then next one is from Ms. Sudha. Ma'am, so you can actually show up the whiteboard.
Okay. I'll throw up the whiteboard now.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So let me also give equal opportunity for teachers on Facebook. So There is a closed-ended question. What is the speed limit here?
Okay, that we have written.
Okay, next one is what could be under the surface of water, closed-ended.
Okay.
Then what can be the
Sorry,
reason?
nothing is coming. Wait.
Okay.
What could be
The
under the
what could be
water?
under the surface of water.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
The next one is an open-ended question, and it is what can be the reason of the flood, or what could be the reasons for the flood?
The reason. Okay. Very good question. So
Yes.
here definitely children will start giving a lot of responses, you know.
Yes. And why are speed limits put on road? That's an open-ended question.
Okay.
Yes. Then Urvashi ma'am, if you could mention if it is an open-ended or a closed-ended. While I read out some more questions on Facebook. Why is so much water accumulated in the pick?
So much water.
Water accumulated in the pick. I'm afraid I can't see anything being typed, ma'am.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. Why is
So much water. Okay, Nandita ma'am says yes. Accumulated in the picture.
Yes.
Okay, next question again is an open-ended question from Ms. Nandita. She says, what will you do if you're in this situation?
You do?
If you're in such a situation, you're in this
If
situation.
you are in such a situation. Yeah. I think we have got a lot of responses.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me to read, I can go on for this entire evening.
Yes. So let's I know it has made you think lots. That's great, actually. That was the very reason for having this exercise. So very rightly said, if you're looking at these questions, we have a lot of open-ended questions, and these questions definitely make the child think, right?
Yes.
So because of lack of time, I think we'll have to, stop taking in responses maybe.
Otherwise, we have quite a few closed-ended questions also. I think it is, we have equal number of closed-ended questions also.
Okay. Yeah, so nice. So definitely, as I said, there has to be a mix of closed and open, but open-ended questions require a little bit of planning, and they should be, however, asked. So it's nice thank you so much for your overwhelming responses for teachers on Facebook and teachers with us over here today. Thank you so much. Moving forward, this is an individual checklist. So what I will, encourage you all is that there are few statements. You note down your responses in yes or no in your notebooks or in your cell phone, wherever you have a digital medium. So write it. Say, I don't think we should read it, right, Shrikant? They can see it on the screen.
Yes, ma'am. It's there on the screen. But if you want me to read it, should I?
I guess they can read it because
yes,
they're a little long.
Sure.
Isn't it?
Yeah, they can.
So just to tell you that the first one, say, I prepare questions as a part of my lesson preparation. If it is yes, you write why. If it is no, you write no, and need not put it in the chat box. This is for your own individual retrospection. Are we overshooting the time, Shrikant?
I think we are mostly good on time.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll move to the next screen. And this is the next set of questions. I actively engage all students in thinking. You can read through all of them.
Yes.
So if we are done, you could have a thumbs up over here, those of you who all are here.
Okay, we've got one thumbs up from Ms. Nidhi.
Okay. So if we are done,
Yes.
then if we have count all your yeses, count number of Ys and count number of no's, and
I think
make a
most
note of
it
how
is
many
Y.
yes you.
I think it is Y. A lot of it is Y on Facebook.
Maybe let them think. It doesn't matter. Let them think.
Okay.
And if you have more yes, should I show the earlier screen, or I think most of them have done it, right?
I think most of them would have done it now.
Right.
Because
So
we are getting a lot of answers.
Yeah. Okay. If you have more, so this is not to tell us at all. You can just think to yourselves. If you have more yes answers than no, your approach of questioning is deeper in nature. You remember the iceberg that we saw. And if you have more no answers than yes answers, your approach to questioning is superficial in nature. So that's a food for thought for all of us, that what should be our questioning and how important do we think of questions in classrooms. And talking about classrooms, I have a very good, Shrikant, now this is a very good strategy for classrooms, okay?
Yeah.
Which teachers can make use of. We call it pause, pounce, and bounce. So how does this work? So this is nothing to do with a question per se, but how do you do it in your classrooms? How do you question in classrooms? So the first is pause. So normally teachers ask a question. So that is pause. Now what happens is, there are some, we call it donkey ears. They immediately say, ma'am, I know, or they spurt out the answer. So the rule of the class should be that everybody should count 30 in the mind. 30 seconds give everybody to think. So that is your pause. So tell children to pause and think and not blurt out the answer. After pause, that is pounce. So you are going to pounce, not physically, but you are going to pounce means call out a name. Like I call out Shrikant, why don't you answer this? So you know, some children are not paying attention in the classroom. So you can catch them, actually pounce on them. And then if Shrikant gives the answer, then you don't say that, yes, it is right, Shrikant, please sit down. You ask, suppose Sudha ma'am or Nidhi ma'am over here, that is Shrikant correct? So in that case, you are involving, so it is like bouncing. You're throwing Shrikant's answer to the other one and saying that, why do you think it is right or why do you think it is wrong? And you could keep bouncing 1 or 2 times based on the level of the questions here. So this is a very effective strategy, what can be used in classrooms. So that's it from my side. And if we have time for questions, I'll be too happy to take your questions.
Wonderful, ma'am. So we do have around 5 minutes for questions. So I request teachers, whosoever has got questions, to please type in your questions, and ma'am will be really happy. So, well, wow, we've got the first question as immediately as we've requested for that. So, the ma'am asks you to explain this concept of pounce and bounce.
Okay. So, ma'am, what I want to say is pounce is actually call out a name of a child. Say you know all your children, you know whom you want to so redirect to a specific question, that is pounce. And now, for example, if suppose Sudha ma'am answers the question, say Pragya answers the question. Now you will not say that, yes, Pragya, you are right. You will say, Shrikant, do you think Pragya is right? And if she is right, why she is right? So bouncing, it is like putting the ball, again throwing the ball at, say, Shrikant. So that is what I mean by pounce and bounce. I hope I have, explained you.
Yes, Sudha ma'am says okay. She's understood it. I think she's clear. Okay, Urvashi ma'am says, ask you a question, ma'am. The question is, ma'am wanted to know if it is good to have more than 100% of open-ended questions during an examination.
More percent of open questions. Yeah, during an examination, if you are talking at, it will not be good. So it depends upon your objective. If it is talking about formative assessment, I would say you should have a 20 and say, or I would say 30% and 80%, 70%, 70 is closed maybe and 30 is open. It depends upon, and you have to make them used to open and closed in your own classrooms before you take it to examination. Because if they do not have the inclination or practice to think, it will go bouncers and, you know, parents may not like it. That's why I said.
Okay. Okay. Any other question? So Neha ma'am says, while she uses these concepts in the class, however, pounds and bounds are interesting and new terms. So
Okay.
the jargon
Thank
is
you.
perhaps new. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
I think these are all the questions that we've got. So Pavni ma'am says questions depend on the learning outcomes. What do you think of it, ma'am?
Okay, so as you know, the first thing is, that's why I said learning objective. The objective of asking a question should be very clear in the teacher's mind. Before she frames a question, if she's talking about, say, I was taking an example of area, and if in area she wants to see whether children have understood how to apply the formula for area of a square, if she's her objective is, then the question should be so framed. So, and then she should also know about the learning outcome. So that should be the first characteristic for a good question.
Okay. I'll take just perhaps, you know, I will give you two last questions before we close, right?
Okay.
So, ma'am, this is the first question from Facebook. We are getting a lot of questions, though, but due to paucity of time, I think we should just leave it to two questions now. The first question is from Ms. Sujata Niyogi. She asks, while forming MCQs, shall we stick to more closed-ended questions?
Okay. So in MCQs, a teacher is bound to look at closed-ended, but it is not true. An open-ended question may make, so you could give an MCQ where you could give a context, and maybe those responses, as in your multiple choice, could make the child think of various possibilities. So that is there, but open-ended questions generally are very good in your subjective type of questions, not exactly objective, you would say, right? But they could be incorporated. Like for the other day, I had seen that there is 15% and 10% discount in a TV and say a fridge. Who has more of discount? Now this child, he has to think that the fridge may be costlier than the refrigerator, the television. So there is a possibility of forming open-ended questions as well.
Okay. So Urvashi ma'am says, ma'am wanted to know, she wants to know, is it good to have more percentage of open-ended questions during examinations?
I think I answered that.
Oh, you've answered this. Okay. I'm sorry.
Correct.
I'm just missing. 1 second. Yeah, there's a question. A lot of questions, so they're just missing. Okay. Okay. Mahek ma'am says, I suggest MCQs should be open-ended questions, and if we provide case study type questions, it would be more challenging. So that's an opinion.
Yes.
That's an opinion.
Yes. Like so, that Rampur thing, Panchayat Raj, what we stated, no? Yes.
So thank you so much, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. I'm sure it's an eye-opener for most of us. and also the teachers. Everyone thoroughly enjoyed and also participated because as NEP stated, inclusive learning is one of the most important things, and also blended learning, isn't it? And this bounce and bounce strategy is one thing that would keep the class alive, and also participative and interactive. And most people have uh, rather pounced onto this strategy. In fact, many people say we had used this, but we didn't know it had a name to it. So there goes the name. So wonderful thoughts. And well, I'll read this out to all the teachers. Good teacher is more than is more a giving of right questions than giving of right answers. That's a wonderful thought. And with that,
Thank
I
you.
would like to, on behalf of all the teachers who are here and also Team Collins, thank you from the heart for spending so much of time with us, and also sharing your ideas very patiently, and also helping us interact with each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. And to all the teachers, wish you all in advance Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year too. And with that, we end the session. Thank you so much.